Here's the plan for today, just to give folks an overview of how we plan to spend our time. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about Washington FilmWorks. I hope most folks know about Washington FilmWorks and what we do, but we'd love to give a little bit of an overview and some context. We'll talk about Forward, which is the Workforce Development Office at Washington FilmWorks. And we'll talk about our workforce development efforts in general. And then we'll dig a little more deeply into the above the line program, which I assume is what most folks are here today to hear about. We'll talk about the program, what it is, who, when, where, all those details. We'll talk about the application process. And of course, we'll make lots of times for questions at the end. On that note, if you have questions while we're going through this, please just pop them in the chat. We'll make sure to either answer them as we go, if we're able to juggle that many things at once, which we might not be. And if not, we'll definitely get to the questions at the end. So that's the plan. All right, let's hop to the next slide. Okay, quick overview of Washington FilmWorks. So Washington FilmWorks is the private nonprofit organization that manages a whole diversity of resources and programs that are here to support creative industries in Washington State and really to enhance the profile and sustainability of Washington State's film industry. So we've been at this for 16 years. We've had some big changes recently that I'll talk about, but I'll give quickly an overview of the programs and support that we offer. So most folks, I hope, are probably familiar with our funding assistance programs that are in place. There's two key ones, which is our production incentive program. This has this program can, if you are approved, can be you can receive up to 30% or more back on qualified in-state spend for projects. There's some spending thresholds to meet for feature films, for episodics, for commercials, but it's allowing 30% plus back on qualified in-state spend. And there's great fact sheets on our website for everything we're talking about. So if you have other questions, I recommend going there and you can get a lot more detail. We also have our small budget production initiative. So similarly, this offers 30% or more back on qualified in-state spend. What's interesting about this program is it's for budgets between $20,000 and $1 million, so smaller budgets than we've worked with previously. And we can also be first money in, meaning that we can set aside funds to support a project while it's continuing to fundraise to get its complete budget. So that's a new program just started this year. In the initial, the first phase of it, we received over 70 applicants. So we're super excited to continue this program because we're seeing how much work is wanting to happen in Washington State, and we're super excited to support it. Our film office, managed by the fearless Vicki Berglund Davenport, who I hope some of you know. If you don't, you should. She's awesome. And she can help with resources across the whole state. So help with locations, permitting, connections. We have over 100 film liaisons across the state to also help you. So it's a wonderful resource. Again, you can go to our website and learn more. We have our production directory. This is a great place to find crew and support services. If you are not registered on our production directory, I highly encourage you to do so. It is a place that we would point any project looking for folks. We'd point them to our production directory first. We also have an amazing locations database. Again, locations across the whole state. You can check that out on our website. You can also upload your own location there as well. And then workforce development. The role of workforce development is really to build the depth and breadth of the workforce to really meet the growing needs of the industry in Washington. And we have a focus on underrepresented communities throughout all of our workforce development work. And obviously, we'll talk a lot more about that today. I just want to highlight a bit of what's changed recently. So last year, the Washington State Legislature passed a landmark bill that did a lot of really amazing and key things. It increased the cap of funds for that incentive program that I mentioned before, those programs, increased it from 3.5 million, where it sat for years, to 15 million. This really allows for multiple projects to happen at once and a whole slew of other resources to come online. It added in enhanced incentives. So there's additional incentives to raise that percentage back on qualified in-state spend if folks meet a couple criteria. So if folks are filming and if folks are making commercials in a rural community, which is 30 out of 39 counties in Washington State, they can qualify for an enhanced incentive. Additionally, if folks are telling the story of an underrepresented community, they can qualify for an enhanced incentive. So these are new, and we're excited to see these already in play for some of the projects we're seeing. And then the small budget production initiative, which I mentioned, again, that's for $20,000 to $1 million budgets. We can be first money in on those projects. And it has the same threshold as our production incentive program for those enhanced incentives. So folks can.
To your point, Speaker McCarthy now says it's the only way that they would open one.
One second.
The New York Times, the NBC News reporting that the War Room at the White House now preparing to respond to expected impeachment.
There we go. Okay. The small budget production initiative. I just want to highlight again, we saw a lot of applicants for this in the first round, and we're just really excited to continue this program. And then workforce development. And that's what we're here to talk mostly about today. In that legislation, it really set aside a mandate and earmarked funds to support workforce development across Washington state. If we're increasing the amount of projects and the support for projects, we want to make sure we're doing the same on the crew side and making sure that we're supporting the folks that make all of these projects happen. Okay, can we hop to the next slide? So let's talk a bit more about workforce development. I just want to acknowledge in this space that I joined the team in March of this year. Erin just joined in the last month or so. But there has been workforce development efforts prior to our joining the team. We've had a media mentorship program in the past. The initial cohort of that served 12 folks from Spokane and Seattle. It offered PA training followed by placements on sets and an onset and offset mentor. It was a pretty incredible program. We've heard a lot of wonderful things on their side about its impact. And I just want to name that we'll continue to build on what we've learned from that program in the future as we look to future programming. We've engaged a lot in community conversations to build our workforce development initiatives and approach. There was a lot of roundtable discussions last year. Currently, our members of our Film Leadership Council have been engaged in community conversations across the state. I don't know if any of them are on this call, but if they are, I'll just take an opportunity to say thank you again to the Film Leadership Council. They're doing incredible work and really helping steer these conversations. We've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with folks in the industry, both early in their career, mid-career, established folks, to really talk about what the current landscape of the industry is. Some of the questions we've been asking is around who's missing from the industry, what are the barriers to access, what's the role of different stakeholders in this, including what's the role of Washington FilmWorks. So all of these pieces together have really helped us learn what our focus areas need to be going forward. And it also led to the launch of Forward, which you see on this slide and on this whole presentation. Forward is the Workforce Development Office at Washington FilmWorks. So if you see this logo on anything, know that it's workforce development related for Washington FilmWorks. It means it's for you. It's for programs helping workforce in the film industry in Washington. So the focus areas that we've identified, and some that we'll talk about more in depth today, are really around programming, leadership, and resources. So on the programming front, we're going to talk today about the Above the Line program focused on emerging producers and directors. But I also want to highlight that once this program is up and launched, we'll be looking at below the line programming as well. We're talking right now with individuals, unions, employers, and commercial production spaces and other spaces about what this programming could look like and finding the right partners for this work. So that's coming soon, so stay tuned for that as well. On the leadership front, we're the first organization that's really been tapped to do statewide workforce development work in Washington. And so we have this real opportunity to lead, to either convene folks or join existing conversations about ways we can transform long-term change for a workforce in Washington state. So some of that's making sure we're having the right conversations around career-connected learning pathways for folks that are in middle school and high school, making sure there's accessible, inclusive inroads to our industry from our educational systems. Part of that's making sure that we have the labor data to tell our story. It's difficult with a lot of freelance work to find labor data that really tells the story of this industry. We're fortunate in that we're joining into a lot of larger conversations that are happening in our state. There's a really robust conversation around creative industry and how to best support artists and creatives in Washington state. And so we're happy to be a part of those conversations too. And again, continue to grow and support the workforce. And then resources. we really want to be the one-stop shop for anyone, whether they're outside the state or inside the state, looking for resources on workforce development. So that's our crew directory, training, information. We're starting to build that up. So stay tuned on our website and on our mailing list to keep up to date on what we're doing there as well. Okay, let's hop to the next one. And I see questions in the chat, so we'll make sure to get to those at the end. Thanks for adding those in. Okay, so let's talk about the above the line program. That might be what folks are here for most today. The above the line education forum and mentorship program. We're going to focus in on the education forum today because that's the first part of the program. Let's just go through a little bit of the who, what, when, where, why. So when we're talking about the who, the eligibility piece, to be eligible for this program, you have to be over 18. You have to be a Washington resident. That means living in Washington for at least 6 months. You have to be a member of an underrepresented community. There's some other pieces we'll go through in a little bit as we look through the questions on things you have to certify. But those are the 3 key things. You have to be an emerging producer or director, really looking to level up. I kind of describe it that this program is really for the folks who've been making film, who've maybe are at that point where they've maybe exhausted their savings, done some crowdfunding, exhausted your friends' savings. Maybe your friends have been working for free on your projects. You've been working on their projects for free. And you're at that point where you're ready to level up, to maybe access some different types of funds, to gain some additional skills around the legal ramifications of that, looking to do maybe larger, more robust projects. That's the who. And then folks have to be able to attend classes online. The whole course is online, except for one in-person event, which we'll talk a little bit about. The program itself is 12 weeks long of classes, panels, and discussions, again, all online. The topics include working in Washington, legal basics, production, budgeting, financing, marketing, and distribution. We'll get into a little more detail in a minute and give a deeper overview of the curriculum. It's 5 hours a week online. It's Wednesday evenings from 5:30 to 7:30 and Saturday mornings from 9 to 12. This is starting November 15th. The 12 weeks of classes will run November 15th through March. There will be a break in the middle. I know that's not 12 weeks, so that's because there's a few weeks off at the turn of the year. There will be an in-person event in March of 2024, which will coincide with Washington FIlmworks Film Day in Olympia. Some of the supports the program offers, we recognize that most folks who are interested in this program are working and have lives outside of this. And so we recognize the value of your time. It is a paid program. There's $1,500 of scholarship set aside for each participant in the program. I didn't mention that this is up to 30 folks in the program, a cohort of 30. There'll be a toolkit of templates and tools that are built throughout the program available for folks in the program. Also will be available online for folks who aren't in the program. So we want to make sure that portions of this are accessible to all. There'll be an online forum for cohort discussion and resource sharing and connecting. And really a big part of the program is the new contacts and networking with additional folks in the industry, both the instructors of the course and the cohort itself. We really see the cohort as emerging leaders or leaders within the Washington State film industry, and we want everybody to know each other if you don't already. So it's a great opportunity to connect with folks across the state, other filmmakers. So success in the program really looks like the 2 key things are really increase in knowledge throughout the program. So we want to help folks really level up, gains maybe some of the pieces that they have either been learning the hard way through making mistakes or maybe didn't get on a set or in a school or certificate program. So that knowledge increase. The connection with the larger cohort is a really key part of the program as well. And there's time set aside each week for that cohort to connect. Of course, we want everyone to finish the program and be successful in the program as well. In order to be eligible for the mentorship portion of the program, which we'll talk about in a little bit, folks have to successfully complete this portion of the program. We'll stay in touch with all the alum in the program to see how things are going afterwards. We want to hear from you after you complete the program on your projects, success, what you're up to. So we'll stay in touch and continue to be a resource into the future. Okay, let's hop to the next one. And Aaron's going to offer a bit more about the curriculum.
Sure. So yeah, this is probably the part that I'm absolutely the most excited about, because this is the part where you get to learn what you'll be learning. So like Audra was saying, a lot of this curriculum is things that most of us, even those of us who have on-set experience, who have been on set for a few years, don't have the opportunity to just learn and, you know, have that knowledge of. They either, like she said, have to learn it the hard way or just kind of figure it out on their own. So things like, for example, who we are here at Washington FilmWorks, what we do, how we can help you on your projects. But things like, we'll be teaching you resources like permitting and getting locations and how to do that legally and how to do the paperwork for things like that. Other legal basics like, what does it mean to own a business and the impacts of running and maintaining an entity, and taxes and licensing, things like that. Intellectual property, we'll be teaching you about fair use, work for hire, things like that, how to protect your IP. Again, a lot of things that even on set, people don't get the opportunity to know. A lot of us get to work as PAs or actors and extras and things like that. And we kind of want to start building an environment where you can start learning those legal things that most of us don't get a chance to learn about. We'll teach you about hiring, so how to do talent and union agreements. Again, a lot of us in here are actors, so you've been on the other side of talent agreements, but we'll be teaching you the legal aspects of that. We'll be teaching you payroll, what above the line agreements are. Even we'll be showing you things down to like fundraising. So how to get money for your projects. Again, like Audra said, I am someone who knows the struggle of having to make a short film for free and having to have friends on set. So we're going to teach you how to crowdfund, things like crowdfunding, and also getting investors and things like that. So, and also that's a big part of what Washington FilmWorks can help you with. So that draws us right back to what we were talking about before, how we can help you. And then, yeah, financing, how to get grants. That's something, writing a grant, which is something even I once had to tackle and realized it was a lot harder than it seemed to. So we get to show you those things. Fundraising tools, like writing a pitch deck, one of my favorite things to do. That is something I actually have had the opportunity to do, and it is so much fun. It's when you get to be creative and show the world your vision. So we'll show you how to do that in an effective way, and we'll show you how to take your ideas and make it into an elevator pitch, which is sort of taking the big idea and shrinking it down to something that essentially you can pitch to a producer in an elevator. So kind of how to make that short but effective. Again, like Audra was saying, it's a lot of things that us just getting to work on a set don't get to learn about the above the line aspect of it. So that's what we'll be doing with that. And then also we'll be teaching things on set things like safety and union guidelines. These are things that a lot of us are probably more familiar with, but it's nice still to have a refresher on. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good chunk of our curriculum. Of course, that's not all of it. I'm just going through and picking and choosing some of the more important and exciting aspects of it, but you kind of get to learn the idea of what we mean. We kind of want something that'll teach you guys how to start at the top, and hopefully that trickles down into building that workforce community that we are here to create. So now I can talk to you guys about the application process, which firstly will be open from September 6th, which I believe is next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday. So between September 6th and then 2 Wednesdays after that, it will close on September 20th at 8 p.m. And between the 6th and the 20th, which are our application dates, we'll have 2 Q&A sessions, I believe on the September 12th and the 14th. You don't have to write that down. We'll absolutely remind you guys before that date comes around, but just to ease your mind, there will be Q&A sessions where you can pop in. We'll be sitting here like we're doing now, and instead of us having a whole presentation for you, we'll kind of just be sitting here ready to answer questions for you. So that'll be happening. It'll be on our website, washingtonfilmworks.org, and you'll be able to find it there. In your guys' Zoom links, when I sent it out to you guys, I attached a preview of our questions that we'll be asking you in the application. So you kind of get an idea of what we're looking for. Well, not what we are looking for, but what's being looked for, what the program kind of consists of, and who we're trying to target for this. So you hopefully, if you need a copy of that, let me know. I can absolutely get you another copy of it. From there, your applications will go to a selection of jury members who will evaluate all the applications, and that will take a while. Like Audra said, classes will start on November 15th. So we'll give those jurors time to evaluate everything and kind of make our selection of our cohort of 30. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the main, unless I'm missing anything as far as the application window, as far as the application process, Audra.
No, I think that's great.
Okay.
Thanks, Erin.
Absolutely. There you go.
Awesome. So as Erin mentioned, the application will open on the 6th. And we're going to just go through here in our time together, a little preview of the application, just in case folks have questions. We can start fielding those now. And I'll read some of these in case there's folks that are, driving and not can't see the screen. So just again, to repeat some of the eligibility pieces on the application, you'll be asked to certify the following things to be true, which is that you're a Washington resident, you're a producer and or director, you're over 18 years of age, you're a member of a historically underrepresented community, you're not a previous program participant. That's an easy one because this is the first inaugural cohort, so no one is a previous participant at this point. You have a social security number or an individual tax identification number. This is so that we can pay you that scholarship. You're not a member of our board or our staff, that you would disclose any conflicts of interest. And we can talk a little bit about what that might look like. Again, that's a conversation. If you think a staff member or a board member or somebody either you have a personal relationship or a business relationship with them, we'd want to know about that. Doesn't necessarily disqualify, it's just a conversation. And then the ability to sign a contract with Washington FilmWorks. As Erin noted, we'll be notifying folks of selections in early November. Classes start November 15th. In between that notification that you've been selected for the program and the start of class, we'll ask you to complete an agreement, which just outlines your application and the expectations of the program. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So as noted, the program, one of the eligibility pieces is that folks identify as a member of a historically underrepresented community. And I'd just like to spend a moment reading this and giving some context around this as well. Within the legislation that was passed last year, it was noted that all workforce development efforts are really focused on what the legislation termed marginalized communities. And so Washington FilmWorks has worked diligently to define that. It was not defined within the legislation and has arrived with legal counsel at this definition. And so this is a requirement of this program. So I'm going to read it out again for folks who might not be able to see the screen. So an individual or group of persons who have been relegated to an unimportant or powerless position such that they are prevented from participating fully in decisions affecting their lives. People may experience further marginalization because of their intersecting identities. They are often communities or populations that face systemic, economic, political, social, and cultural barriers, many of them embedded in local laws and norms. The term encompasses communities with a shared experience of marginalization stemming from circumstances beyond their control. Historically underrepresented communities often include Black, Latino, Indigenous, and American Indian, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders, and other persons of color, members of religious minorities, refugees, migrants, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer persons, rural communities, formerly incarcerated persons, persons experiencing homelessness, and persons with disabilities. This definition also lives on our website and is part of the application process. So you'll have an opportunity to review it again. Okay, let's hop to the next one and take a look at the application preview for these narrative questions. So in the application, you'll be asked to answer these handful of questions, 250 words or less for each of them. And the questions are, please share more about your lived experience and how it impacts your perspective and storytelling. What are you hoping to learn in the education forum? How specifically will this opportunity help you to level up? Why is this the right time for Washington FilmWorks to invest in your success? What skills, talents, perspectives will you bring to the group participating in the education forum? Why do people want to work with you? And how did you hear about this? We also want to make sure that we're tapping into where you learned about the program. Okay, let's go to the next one. In addition to those narrative questions and the certifications that you make on the application, there's a few things to upload or provide as well. First is a resume. We ask folks to upload a one-page PDF just detailing your film industry experience. A synopsis. This portion's optional. We believe that participants would benefit greatly from having a long-form narrative project budgeted at less than $1 million in that range to develop during the program, a project you're thinking about and using in program as you're adding in additional tools. This is optional, it's not required. If you do have it, you would upload it as 250 words or less, the description of the narrative project that you're developing. We also ask that folks share a link to a piece of filmed content that you've worked on in a key role. Please make sure that that is 5 minutes or less and that it's not password protected. We need to be able to access it and view it. Okay, let's go to the next one. So I just want to share before we wrap or move into questions, I want to share a few updates of what's on the horizon, just give you a sense of what's coming up next. In December, Washington FilmWorks will lead an industry update, so stay tuned for that. Again, if you're not on our mailing list or following us on social media, highly encourage you to do so. We have a lot of things happening all the time and it just keeps ramping up. So it's a great place to learn about the date of the industry update. Additionally, our small budget production initiative that I mentioned earlier, the next window for that will open early next year. So again, stay in touch, keep an eye out. That's coming soon. The mentorship portion of this program will also start next year in spring. So again, folks who complete the education forum will then be eligible to apply for the mentorship portion of the program. The mentorship portion of the program will be up to 5 folks for a 6-month mentorship. They'll be paired with an in-state mentor and an out-of-state mentor, and they'll be able to move their project further along. That might look like finalizing that pitch deck, meeting with financiers, moving into production. The commitment will look like regular meetings with your mentor, regular check-ins with Washington FilmWorks staff, and then 2 in-person events. At the front end of that 6-month internship, there'll be a lab intensive weekend, and then at the end of the event, there'll be a celebratory pitch event. Additionally, in the mentorship portion, I'll name this, there is some seed money set aside as a portion of their projects for folks. Our hope is that folks are going through this program and then moving into our small budget production initiative funding and able to access funds there and move their projects toward completion. Also, folks can select a creative partner. I think I saw a similar question pop up in the chat, which we'll get to in a minute. But if you're selected for the mentorship, let's say you're a director who's been selected into the mentorship portion, you can bring along your producer partner. They can participate as well. I'll leave it at that for the moment. So that's the mentorship portion, which will be coming up in spring. You can also on our website right now preview some of the information on the mentorship as well. So you can look a little ahead and see what that might look like. The list your project. A meeting can't go by without me plugging the list your project piece. So if you go on our website right now, under our film office, there's a tab saying, tell us about your project. I really encourage folks, if you are working on a project right now, tell us about it. We have lots of information and data for the programs or for the projects that we fund through our small budget production initiative and through our production incentive program. But we know there is so much more going on across the state. And if we know about all the things that folks are involved in, really helps us tell the larger story of film in Washington state. It helps us grow our resources. It helps us go back to the legislature and get more money. It's really important that we know what folks are working on. So thank you in advance for just telling us about your projects. It helps us have a fuller story of all that's happening in the film industry in Washington. Additional forward programming. So again, coming up, we're going to be looking at below the line programming. So stay tuned for that. We're talking with a lot of folks right now and building partners and approach for that programming. And then overall growing resources. We have a lot that we're doing at Washington FilmWorks. We have a growing team, a growing mandate from the legislature, growing funds. So we're adding resources in programming and in tools to our website all the time. We're increasing our outreach in community, so you hopefully will see us more. So I just really invite you to stay tuned to all that we're doing and talk to us. Tell us how we're doing and what you'd like to see too. We're really open to adjusting and learning in community on what really best supports you all and the film industry as a whole in Washington. Okay, next slide. Let's go to some questions. I'll put these emails are up here as well. So you can reach out to the workforce development team. That's Erin and I at forward@washingtonfilmworks.org. You can reach out to our info, our general information at info@washingtonfilmworks.org. So either of those are resources if you have any questions you don't want to share here or any questions that bubble up afterwards. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording so everyone can ask all their questions freely.